Matt,
Matt,
we're here again to talk about the best games of the year.
this is our favorite time of the year when we talk about the best games of the last year.
It's my favorite time of any year, especially 2017, which sucked. But
It's pretty bad.
But you know what I want to do?
What's that?
Let's just talk about those games.
All right, let's do it.
All right, the number 10 best game of 2017. How do we want to do it this year? Let's both say
Wait.
it. What?
Both at the same time?
Both at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Horizon Zero Dawn. You didn't say it.
That's true, I didn't say it.
So talk to me about Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon Zero Dawn is a cool open world game where you play as a cool girl who goes around and fights bad guys and robot dinosaurs and animals.
Is she a cool girl?
Yeah.
She's kind of like everyone hates her at first, and she's like the
No, but then
village
they
shit.
learn how cool she is, and then they respect her.
Yeah, I mean, apart from being an outcast, she's like the dopest person alive because she's super smart and can do anything.
She has a magic machine in her head.
Yeah, it's true.
Very cool. Video game.
Yeah, Horizon I feel like is the game that barely made it on this list, but like it is really good. It's just it's almost a little too cookie cutter for its own good in some ways.
It's definitely got a lot of what you expect from a modern open world game.
Right. But like I can't fault a game for doing all that stuff well. And the other thing is that people forget people don't forget, but I feel like people don't give enough credit to how well it does some new things. Like I actually found the combat to be really interesting. At least against the machines. Human combat is like kind of not good, and I wish that they, in the future, because there's gonna be more of these, will like retool that a little bit. But like the way it works against the robot dinosaur looking things is you basically like go into focus and look at their kind of weak points, so the different like parts of their body, and like determine what's what, and then you can attack them based on that. So like if they have gas canisters on their back or something, you can attack those with fire and make them explode, or like there'll be a part on their back that is susceptible to tearing, so you can use tear arrows to try and like knock it off of them and do massive damage.
You could even tear off like weapons and use them against.
Right, yeah, if they have like a big cannon on their arm, you can blow it off and then like pick it up. Or like a disc launcher or whatever. So that's actually that's pretty unique for an open world type game. I also thought that the story was really good. It doesn't hit everybody the same way, but to give you the basic premise is like Horizon Zero Dawn is a post-apocalyptic game. So like our society has already ended, but is being rebuilt by these like new tribal humans. But the world is also populated by these weird robot dinosaur things, which are progressively getting more kind of aggressive and also like corrupted. Like there's some weird smoky red corruption sweeping through them, which seems to make them super aggressive and maybe even being controlled by something. I don't want to give away what happens, but like you dig through these old remnants of like the old civilization that died and kind of try and piece together through like audio files and stuff what happened to them, and it's all rolled into where you, Aloy, the main character, comes from. And the reason why I liked it is because I found like the whole what's going on thing to be original and also not disappointing. And that's a tough thing to do. Like a good parallel I would draw would be the comic Why the Last Man.
Sure.
In which, the main question of like, what happened to all the men in the world? Why did they all die? And they never tell you. And they sort of have like a moment where they're like, well, it didn't matter what the real answer is. What mattered is the friends you made along the way. And that's like fine, but it's better, I think, to have an answer and to have that answer be kind of interesting.
Sure. I thought it took a kind of a long time for them to get to the point with that stuff, but it was pretty well executed.
That's true.
Also, the graphics are really good.
Yes. It's probably... Do you think this or Uncharted is a better looking game? Uncharted Lost Legacy.
I'd put them pretty close.
They do different things. Horizon's a little more fantasy, obviously.
Yeah.
But in terms of like lighting, the Like, there were times I'd be running through the hills and I'd just, like, look up at the lens flare and be like, that's a good fucking lens flare.
Yeah.
I am excited that Kojima's next game is being done in this engine.
Sure. Whatever that game is going to be.
Yeah. You know, like I said, I was very surprised that came out of Guerrilla Games, because, you know, never liking Killzone all that much, but I'd say, considering that Horizon was better than it had any right to be.
Oh no, don't you do that.
What?
Don't you say that.
Why not?
Because it makes no sense.
Let's move on. So anyway, that's Horizon, number 10. Let's move on to our next game of the year. Mario Odyssey.
Mario Odyssey.
I don't think there's a super in the title.
There's definitely a super.
Hang on, I've got the box right over here. I'm gonna look at it. Fuck, there is.
Why would there not be a super?
I thought it was just called Mario Odyssey.
You fool.
Okay. Let's talk about it. You haven't played it at all?
I have not played it at all, but I want to play it if I ever get a Switch.
You've looked at pictures.
I looked at videos of it. It looks
Yeah, so there's always one game in our list I feel like that one of us hasn't played. I got a Switch because I got a hot deal on it, and I wanted to play Mario. So the main thing I'll say is that, like, ever since, like, Mario 64, I've been, like, kind of on the fence. That's a weird thing to say, but I always liked Banjo-Kazooie better. I'm probably an idiot for saying that.
I mean, you have people on your side, but you're all wrong.
I should go back and play both of them. I like the structure of Banjo-Kazooie. Anyway, let's not talk about it. I kind of went into Mario Odyssey with all these fucking rave reviews, expecting to be like, you know, it's fine, but it's not, like, groundbreaking. But I actually really liked it. It's like, I was expecting to put Hat in Time on this list as my, like, platform game of the year, but Mario Odyssey, there's kind of no contest. Hat in Time's cute, but it makes me feel joy in a way that, like, I normally scoff at other people who say they do. It's very colorful and fun, even if I think the characters are a little weak. They actually, like, Nintendo's actually, I'm finally feeling that, like, cheeky sense of humor that, like, people often talk about and I don't usually see. Like, it seems to have a self-awareness about itself that I enjoy. I disagree with people's criticisms that the moons are too easy to get. I agree that some of them are very easy to get, like, you'll enter a new world and you'll run over and just, like, oh, the ground is glowing here, and you ground pound it and there's a moon there. But it's ultimately a game that's designed to be picked up on the go. Like, if you're using a Switch and you just are in an airport or something, you want to turn it on for 5 minutes, like, you can find a moon or two in that very short time. And that's really, there's more complex ones, but it's actually really great for just, like, they understood the medium and they understood the device that they were making, and they're like, how do we make this in a more bite-sized version? And it has that nice, like, dopamine rush of, like, okay, there's a moon, cool. I don't think it, like, trivializes it. It worked for me.
How are the cutscenes?
What's that?
How are the cutscenes?
The cutscenes are just perfect.
Okay.
No, I mean, there aren't very many cutscenes.
It's a joke, because Mario games don't have much story.
Yeah, I figured that's what you were saying, but I will say the ending kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Maybe am I a nice guy? Because you saw the ending, right?
Yeah, it seemed weird.
It's weird. I don't know. It's both out of character for, like, Mario and Peach, but whatever. That's besides the point. The worlds are good and interesting. They're different and fun.
They made a good Mario game.
Yeah, it's not that surprising, I guess, but they could have fucked it up. They could have made another Sunshine, which, again, I didn't play, so I'm kind of talking out my ass. Looks fine, but very fun. Oh, the music is great. At least Superstar, or whatever the hell it's called. I'm probably playing it in the background right now, but the song that plays, that whole sequence where you go to New Dog City and do the festival with Pauline, and she's singing the song, is top-notch. That's, like, the conceptual peak of the game. So, to sum up, last few Mario games haven't grabbed me as much as, like, the general population, but I feel like Odyssey was better than it had any right to be. You know what I mean? Alright, let's move on. Let's move on to our next game.
The Evil
Within
2.
We sort of did that one.
Yep.
We're getting better. I feel like I like this game. Is this game even on your personal top 10?
Not quite.
Not quite.
But it's really good.
It's up there. You pressured me to play it. I actually thought you liked it more.
I did like it, but I liked a lot of games this year.
Is this the only... No. I was about to say, is this the only survival horror game on our list? But it's not. There's something very special to me about an open world survival horror game. And there are like 2 of them that I can think of.
This and...
Silent Hill Downpour.
What about Alone in the Dark?
That's not open world.
It kind of is, though.
If that is open world, then any survival horror game is open world.
It's open world as much as Evil Within 2 is, I think.
Alone in the Dark? Oh! I was thinking of the original.
Oh no, the crappy one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, about.
Anyway, let's talk
That's
about
very... Yeah. What did you think about Evil Within 1?
Evil Within 1 had some cool bits and some fun fights, and it had potential, but like it was very annoying very frequently.
I think the thing I said about it when I was done with it was like, man, that game annoyed the hell out of me. Now it's time to think about whether or not it's my favorite game of the year. And that's because, like, yes, I liked those fights that you talked about, but also I was like horrendously frustrated for half of it and like beating my head against the same boss over and over. Shinji Mikami made Resident Evil 4 and kind of decided to carry that style over for this.
Somewhat.
Yeah, sure. For Evil Within 1, I should say. Because I think he only produced Evil Within 2, right?
I believe so.
Evil Within 2 basically does everything that Evil Within 1 did, but throws out all of the crappy, frustrating bits, and improves on adds a couple new things that improve it.
Yeah. Like,
kind of the open worldness and the quest. So, it's not fully open world. Like, there are moments where you get locked into doing, like, you're in a, museum or something, and you're going to be there for a while.
Yeah. There's a few open areas, and those are fun to explore.
Well, right when you start the game, you basically get into the thick of it. You get in this sort of open world thing, and you can just do whatever. And I think I spent like 7 hours just walking around that first open world bit, like before I got to Act 3 or whatever, of like 20. And that's the part where I was like, I kind of fell in love with the game, because you can play it how you want. I played it like super stealthy. I like barely shot anything and just snuck around this town, killing every monster I could. Because it's persistent. Like if you kill a monster, they're just dead until something big happens, and then they repopulate the town. So, it's just a fun horror game.
It's fun to sneak around and gather supplies and figure out how to get through an area without getting your ass handed to.
And I've always liked the green gel system of leveling up.
It's kind of goofy, but
it's really stupid. When you kill a monster, they leave behind some bubbling green gel, which you scoop up in an endless supply of jars that you apparently have, and then use it in your brain space to make yourself better at running.
Yep.
The story is one of the worst video game stories I've ever seen.
It's like enjoyable in a campy way at times.
It's like, why? So the game is a little long in the tooth, I'll say that. At the end of the game, I was like, all right, guys, let's wrap this up. And it came from the Luke Cage school of replacing a interesting villain with a terrible one. But if you like horror, I'd say don't at all skip on Evil Within 2. The game is not scary at all. There's some tense moments where like, oh, you're sneaking up and oh shit, the guy saw you, ah! But like,
there's like the woman.
Sure, there's this weird stalking monster that I actually found her to be kind of more annoying than anything, but.
Well, she sings, and it's like it comes from the controller if you play on PS4.
Oh, really?
And like it's like the louder it gets, the closer she is. So that kind of was a little creepy.
That's kind of neat. Yeah, I mean those moments were probably the most tense because they took away your ability to fight. But anyway, yeah, if you like horror games, I would say, when you consider that Evil Within 1 was so flawed and frustrating, Evil Within 2 just felt like it was better than it had any right to be, and was an improvement in every way from that game. So, would you agree?
Number 7.
Wolfenstein
Wolfenstein
2, The New Colossus. I feel like there's a delay between our voices, so...
That sounds great, though. Sure.
Yeah. Matt, talk to me about Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus.
Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus is the sequel to Wolfenstein The New Order. And it takes place in like 1960 or so, where the world has been taken over by the Nazis because they stole this ancient technology from the Jews and used it to build an impossible-to-beat war machine.
Right.
And so you are part of this resistance movement in the United States, and you're trying to gather up a crew, basically, so you can try and start hurting the Nazis in the United States and get them out of there.
Yeah.
It's...
What?
Do you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's a shooter, obviously, and it's got some stealth and also some not stealth. The gameplay is
Kind of besides the point.
Fine. It's a lot of shooting and blowing things up and like using two guns at once, and it's fine. But what is really cool about the game is just the story and the characters and the scenes you have with them.
Yeah, it's like a... I feel like if the game had no story or whatever, it would not be on this list. No. Like the first game, people liked the sort of old school... Not the first game. The last game, people liked the sort of old school approach to FPS that they were doing. In this one, I felt like it didn't work as well. I think a lot of people's main complaints would be with the level design, and I definitely felt that too in areas like New York. But what's really like great about it is it's a game that features both harsh teardowns of an America too accepting of Nazi rule, and also at the same time cartoony, wacky hijinks bullshit. And I'd say it's better than it had any right to be, considering those two things. Because like it's a very tight rope that you have to walk when you're doing stuff about like racism and the last game had a concentration camp in it. This game has like the fucking KKK. Has been handed the South of America. Actually, I think they're going to take control of all of America, right?
They pretty much have control of all of America, but yeah, the game walks this really crazy tonal tightrope where it's like a guy's yelling at you about UFOs in one scene, and then in the next scene, like you're confronting your father who was this really horrible, racist, misogynist asshole, and he mistreated you as a kid, and you're going back to your old home and seeing him again. And it's like, it does all that stuff, and all of it really, I think, works.
Yeah.
And you just wanted to keep playing to see what happens next.
Right. It would probably be a good like movie game if somebody just compiled all the relevant cutscenes together. Because
they've done that.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about because it is so much like this series of really extreme moments that you don't want to spoil for anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to, it's cathartic in a sense that like if you
shoot a lot of Nazis in it.
Yeah.
Auto shotgun in both hands.
Yeah. Let's do number 6. This one we should be able to do pretty well. Prey. God damn it. So, Prey is a game that you pushed me to play. I'd heard like good things, but not like great things about it. Like everyone seemed to kind of gloss over it, and that's a shame because it's really good.
So there's I'm going to use the term immersive sim here.
Yes. Yeah, explain what that is.
They are mostly first-person games where the focus is on, like creating a believable space and giving you interesting ways to interact with it.
BioShock, Dishonored, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like it started with like Thief and like System Shock and Deus Ex like 20 years ago.
This game is very System Shock.
Yeah, and like I think like this captures like that original idea better than like BioShock does, because it has just like more detail in terms of like you have this huge inventory and you have all these different skills you can level up, and like choices you have to make about how to build your character.
Yes.
Like, there's like multiple ways to do literally like every objective in the game.
Yeah, it felt, considering you're trapped on a space station and like sections are walled off to you, it felt almost more open than a lot of open world games, because like, especially so there's this gun in the game called the glue gun that you get very early on, and all it does is like, it can slow down monsters if you hit them with it, but monsters, aliens, whatever, you can like spray it on the walls and it'll create like a little clump there, and you can then jump and climb on the walls, and like, if you're in an area, you can just look up and see that there's like a second story to it, and you can just climb your way up there, and it feels like you're breaking the game.
Like, you are like breaking the intended progression when you do that, but like, they knew that you were going to do that.
They're totally cool with it. Yeah.
Like, you can explore so much of the space station just from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like really well thought out. Like, it has like this whole history where it was like this, I think, like a cooperation between the Russian and U.S. governments.
Yes.
And then like that didn't work out, so it was like eventually sold off to this corporation who kept building on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the world
huge history built into it.
Yeah, the world of Prey. I mean, essentially the story is like, should we ruin the reveal at the very beginning?
I don't think we have to.
Okay. Basically, there's aliens, y'all, and the aliens are called mimics, and a really cool mechanic is like that basically they can mimic anything. So you'll walk into a room and like there'll be a bunch of shit all over the place, as you would have in a ruined space station. Like, you'll walk up to like a pickup, and it'll be, as you like get close to it, it'll like come alive and attack you, and it's this black spider looking thing, and it's a mimic. But it's not just pickups, like it could be just a coffee cup on a desk or something like that. So it adds this layer of like, you're walking around and like, you don't trust anything in the room, you know?
Yeah. I think like they try to make you feel unsafe, and then as you keep playing and you get more abilities, you feel more and more in control.
Right. Because like eventually those things are more just like, oh fucking, there's a mimic in my toolbox. Kill it. And the story in general, I think, has not been given enough credit, because I think aside from one or two of the other games on this list, it's like maybe like the third best story of the year, somewhere in there.
It's a cool story.
Third or fourth, maybe. Yeah, there's a very good stories this year.
Like, there's a lot of like questioning of like what's real, and
yeah, I'd say if you like BioShock, or you know, like you said, immersive sim games, don't sleep on Prey. Couple problems with it. Honestly, the biggest problem was probably long load times.
Yeah, because
and
you
backtracking
have to move around the space station a lot by the end, and that gets annoying with just like looking into new areas.
But long load times and occasional pacing weirdness aside, it was better than it had any right to be.
Sure.
Good.
Let's say that.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree. That being said, why don't we talk about our next game on the list?
Okay.
Resident Evil 7.
Resident Evil 7.
You said that very late.
Oh.
So, let's talk about Resident Evil 7, because Resident Evil 6 was such a shit show, and Resident Evil 7 took such a big risk to course correct, and it really could have been a disaster with VR integration and stuff, but ultimately it was better than it had any right to be, because it took core concepts from Resident Evil 1 and brought them into the modern age. Like, I felt that in that initial mansion in particular, in RE7, I felt like I was doing the same stuff that I was doing in RE1. I was going around this place, solving puzzles, conserving ammo, finding keys to unlock other doors, and slowly kind of expand my way through it. And it's all the same core stuff, but they just put a new perspective on it and brought it into the modern age, and it was just nice to have that confirmation that, like, the way Resident Evil 1 played is still fun today. It just needs like an update to the controls and stuff.
Yeah. I enjoyed it less after you get past the first couple areas.
Sure. There's kind of a major shift in the game, almost like halfway through, maybe a little after. But at that point, I wouldn't say it falls apart. It just changes a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think the first area in particular of that game is like amazing. I mean, it's similar to RE4, right?
Well, RE4, I'm not the biggest fan of the final area, but it still feels like the same game the whole way through, I think.
See, to me, I feel like RE4, once you get to the castle, it's like a little different. Like, when I think RE4, I think of the village at the beginning.
Yeah. I guess that's true of a lot of Resident Evil games, is like they're cooler before they get to the like
lab.
Yeah, the
it's
lab
always a
area.
fucking lab. But so like to give a little bit of background, when RE7 was like first announced, it was like, what the hell is this? Like it seemed like they were doing a PT thing. Like all of a sudden it was in first-person perspective, and they were launching this playable teaser game thing, demo thing. It looked like you weren't going to fight anything anymore, and that it was all going to be like running away from stalker type enemies, and that's all in there. But it's kind of cool. It's almost like a secret twist that you have a gun and shoot mob monsters in this game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not really what they sold it. Like they sold it with the weird family that captures you.
But I liked that. Like I was fully expecting like, yeah, I don't even know if you get I don't know if you fight like zombies in this game at all. And while you don't fight like zombies in the same way, there are mob enemies that you can kill, and it's fun. And the same RE principles of running away from enemies still holds true. In fact, it's more powerful than ever in this game.
Sure.
Almost to a fault. Like there were some rooms where I was like, all right, there's 3 freaking mold men in this game. I'm just gonna run for the exit. And as soon as I did, they like dissolved. Like they didn't keep pursuing me or anything. So
yeah, they just like chill there until you come back.
Right, and you can get away from them pretty easy. One of the things that this game does really well, at least in the few moments that you can do it, is like the first boss encounter in the garage. You know which one I'm talking about? Like, there are many ways to go about that. I'd say at least 3, I think I've seen, to actually beat him.
Really?
Yeah, and there's some like I watched an LP of somebody doing it, and they like managed to do something that I was like, oh, I wonder if you could do that, but no, I don't think I can, or it just didn't happen for me at all in that way. And it was just so totally cool to see them approach like a boss encounter like that. It's really hard to talk about without giving anything away. Let's say there's a weapon in the room that the boss will eventually use on you, but if you play it right, you can use it on them first, or you can start to use it and they'll take it away from you. You know what I mean? Like it's cool little interactions like that. Did you get your leg cut off in the game?
I did. It happened very early.
Okay, that didn't happen to me, and when I saw it online, it blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Like, there's a sequence where the sort of early main antagonist is chasing you, and if he gets you, he can chop your leg off, and then he, like, gives you a bottle of healing stuff, like, to taunt you, kind of, and, like, also show you, like, sort of lore-wise how the mechanic works, and he, like, tells you to reattach your leg, and you, like, go over and put your leg on and pour this chemical over it and, like, reattaches itself.
Yeah.
I totally never had it happen to me.
When that happened, I thought, like, it was going to be, like, a big part of the game where you're just constantly
reattaching limbs. Well, like, early on in the game, you get your freaking hand cut off.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I was like, oh, this must be a sequence playing with another character, and, like, this guy's gonna die. Because it was so extreme, and I didn't expect it. A lot of, like, that whole early sequence reminded me of The Evil Dead, and also, like, obvious references to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's at least at the onset, very different from what Resident Evil has done. I think you got to give them a lot of credit for.
It's the freshest the series has been since 4.
Yeah, and yet Resident Evil 6 has outsold it by like a factor of 10 or some crazy shit. So expect more terrible games on the horizon, but Resident Evil 7 is very good, and good on them. I'd like to play it in VR someday. I'm sure it's a pretty scary game. Very tense. I'm sure VR makes it unbearably so. But let's talk about our next game, number 4 with a bullet. Night in the Woods.
Night in the Woods.
We're getting worse now. Matt, talk to me a little bit about this game.
So Night in the Woods is a side-scroller where you play May, who is this cat person who returns to her town full of animal people.
Yep.
She has just dropped out of college, and now she's back and seeing how the town has changed since she's been gone.
Yep.
And she sees her parents, and she starts hanging out with her old friends again. So a lot of the game is just spending time with people you know and figuring out what your relationship with them is now. But another part of it is this sort of weird, creepy mystery that's going on.
Yes. Very subtly alluded to at first in the beginning, like, oh, did you hear so-and-so went missing? Or,
yeah,
there's an arm in the street.
Yeah.
But, like...
I thought both parts of the game worked really well and worked really well together.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to pull off, both of those, but I thought they did it.
It's weird to me to have a game where you have, like, some weird, creepy bullshit going on in the background and have me be more interested in the just mundane, small-town character interactions that are going on.
Yeah.
Like, that was really the meat of the game to me.
Yeah, that was the focus, mainly.
This is probably the best, like, youth writing I've ever seen. Like, it just seemed very genuine. Like, this, it seemed... And also, like, lighthearted and funny in a way that, like, Achewood is, where they kind of have fun with the way people talk.
Yeah.
It's weird, because I don't personally have, like, a strong connection with, like, I never dropped out of school or whatever, but, like, just knowing my own hometown, like, it felt real to me in that way. Like, oh yeah, I know the feeling of, like, driving through your hometown and it's like seeing a new gas station has popped up, but, like, the old video store is gone now, or something like that, you know?
Yeah, well, I never dropped out either, but I so really identified with the, like, not knowing, like, what the hell you're gonna do.
Sure.
Like, you're just, like, a young person who hasn't figured out what their future is yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably everyone feels that somewhat, except for, like, certain, like, people who have everything figured out, but, like, I don't think there's that many of them.
I think, May is a good protagonist. She reminded me a little bit of, a less whiny Holden Caulfield, maybe, but, she's not like the perfect protagonist. She's deeply flawed and, like, kind of an asshole sometimes, in, like, a not meaning to be way, but she's just, like, a little inconsiderate sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, and, like, I think you and I both went the B route, right?
Yeah, I spent more time with B.
There's two main characters that you can choose to spend time with. It's either your sort of flamboyant criminal friend Greg, or your sort of depressive, mean friend B, who's sort of not even your friend really. But I chose to spend more time with her, probably because I have a desperate need for everyone to like me. And, like, you have, like, fun with her, but also, like, almost every day you end up doing something that pisses her off because you, like, you can't realize, like, what her situation is like. Like, she really wants to... She would love to go to college. Like, she's obviously a really smart person.
Yeah.
And she wants to go to college and, like, live her own life, and, like, she just can't. Like, her mother died, and she needs to run the family business because her father's, like, a loser alcoholic who can't hold shit together. And so, like, she's trapped in this small town shitty situation, and, like, May just has no understanding of, like, what that's like. Like, or late in the game, you go to a college party, like, an hour and a half away, and, like, B's hanging out with all of these college friends, and, like, May, like, lets it slip that, like, she doesn't go to the school or whatever, and B just, like, runs out, like, how do you not fucking get this? And it's just, like, such a, I don't know, it's felt like such a real moment of, like, yeah, I totally get what that person's like, even though she's a weird lizard in this cartoon cat game.
Yep.
It played a little to me like some people describe Stardew, which I still have not played, but, like, every day I woke up and I was like, alright, I've got my things to check on for the day. There's these rats that are starving in this abandoned church that I have to go feed a pretzel to. Gotta go see what my mom's doing. I gotta go hang out with the teens under the overpass thing on the sewers.
Look at the constellations.
Yep, I gotta look at the constellations. Constellations. Yeah, just a very very interesting characters, very fleshed out world. If you like that kind of thing, like obviously the game has great writing and characters, but I think the most important thing was that it was better than it had any right to be. So that being said, why don't we move on to talk about our number 3 game of the year?
Okay, let's do that.
1, 2, 3. Plunk
Plunk
Bat. Yeah!
I thought you were going to say that.
I figured you were definitely going to say that, so.
Okay.
PUBG.
Player Unknown's Battleground.
Yes, is a beautiful disaster with performance issues and crashes and janky-ass weirdness, but it's so much greater than the sum of its parts. It's so much better than it has any right to be, because it was this early access game that came out of nowhere, took the world by storm, and now is like outperforming Dota on Steam. It's a 100-man deathmatch. If you play it on single player, it's every man for himself. 100 people drop into this match, which is already a weird style of play, because that means you have to queue up 100 people, which is very risky for like a kind of indie-ish game to take. And you know, everyone just fends for themselves, and it's a king of the mountain type situation, winner take all. The winner gets that chicken dinner, winner chicken dinner, and I'd say it plays like, I think it was originally PlayerUnknown made it as an Arma mod, or like an H1Z1 mod also, maybe? I can't remember what his involvement was, but it plays sort of like...
I thought it was a DayZ mod.
Maybe it's DayZ and not H1Z1.
Because DayZ was like an Arma mod that became its own game.
Okay, that might make sense. So, like, the weapons have, like, a very real feeling to them. Like, there's bullet drop-off that you have to take into account. But that all works very well in terms of, like, you can't... I feel like if it was, like, a Twitch shooter, it wouldn't work.
Like, the way it starts is everyone is thrown out of an airplane onto this huge island, and you have to scrounge for resources, you have to find weapons, and you have to find attachments for them. And you have to find like medical resources to like heal yourself if you take damage.
Yep.
And all this stuff that you have. Like everyone is just in the beginning, they're just scraping by looking for anything to protect themselves with.
Yes.
And then like everyone is like pushed towards one point on the map because there's this force field that is constantly closing in from
kind of like Hunger Games.
The outside. So it's like it's a cool like loop where like you start out desperate and then like you get like basically just more tense as you get closer to the end, and then, like you're in a smaller and smaller area. Yeah, like
I if I'm playing on solo, like if I'm 10 people or less, I start like shaking hard because I'm like, so tense. Yeah, as Matt said, there's a blue circle of electric death that basically gets smaller and smaller on the map, pushing everybody closer together. So you can hide in the game, you can like sit in a bathtub, but eventually you're going to need to move. You know, when you're exposed to the elements, people can shoot you, take you down from a distance. And there's that element where you need to loot stuff. So when you first drop in, you can go for the places that have the best loot, which are like the big cities or like the military base or whatever, but other people are going to drop there too. Or you can go for like a small house in the countryside that like probably no one's going to go for, but it also may have nothing in it. So,
or you go to the junkyard and
win the game.
Win the game.
Yeah. So, I would say like you know me, Matt. You know me. I'm a video game thrill seeker, right? So like I like my Dark Souls. I like when I beat a big boss in Dark Souls and I get that big adrenaline rush. I would say that to this date, I don't know if anything compares to the rush I get when I'm number 2 in a PUBG match, particularly on solo. But anything, you know, like that first chicken dinner I got was like my heart was pounding so fast, and it's just such a good high.
As I recalled when I first won a dinner with you guys, it reminded me a lot of the first time, like, finishing the campaign in Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
Where it's, like, it felt, like, super intense, and, like, Are we gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? Ah, we made it.
We did it, buddy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes, it's a great feeling. Jeff Gersman has talked a lot about this. That like on single player anyway, it's like almost like a horror game at times because like it's so tense. There's these moments where like you can hear other people around you very well. So if you're crouched and hiding in a house, you hear somebody roll up and you just hear their footsteps, and you're like being perfectly quiet, trying to, even if you're playing with multiple people. I had a game just the other day with one of my friends who we were sitting in a house and like 2 people rolled up. They were shooting at other people. They have no idea we were there, and we're just like not talking to each other, dead quiet, trying to hear where they are positioning wise. Like I think they're at that door, but I just don't know. And then obviously shit opens up, and we killed those guys. So just so you know, it's very weird that I have loved this game so much because I'm not a big shooter guy, I'm not a big multiplayer guy, but I've put like 350 hours into this game. It's replaced Binding of Isaac as my like, let's roll the dice and see what happens this round game. Probably because of that loop.
Than 300 hours.
Yes, you have. But you've probably, 15 at least, probably?
Yeah, that's more than I played in a lot of games this year. So.
Yeah. It's just very easy to drop in with your friends and have a good time. And I it's got some jankiness, but whatever. It's a fun game. Calm down, everybody.
It's a good time.
Let's move on, and let's talk about our number 2 game of the year. Matt,
number 2.
Say it with me. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Okay. Talk to me about it. You Zelda fan, you.
So, they made a Zelda game.
They didn't just make a Zelda game.
So, it's like the 3 core pillars of Zelda. You got combat, exploration, and puzzles. Like those were all like there in the first game. And as the series went on, it focused on the puzzle side and combat somewhat. Whereas, so this game they took a fresh look at it and they went the other way, where it's more exploration and less puzzles.
Yes.
There's this. It's the first true open world Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
And
except for Zelda
basically
1.
just you start on this plateau where you do the 4 little tutorial areas and you get your 4 powers. And then you leave the plateau and you're just in the world and you can see Ganon's castle in the distance, and the game is just okay, go kill Ganon.
Yep.
And it also gives you these hints to what else you can do to get ready for Ganon, basically. And that's really the whole game, is just preparing to fight Ganon. So you have these quests to meet the different people who live in the area and find these divine beasts, which are these old weapons that were supposed to fight Ganon before, but were taken over by him. And those are the dungeons basically where you have to find out how you get to the beast and basically disconnect it from Ganon's power so you can use it against him when you eventually fight him. And that's the only real main objective in the game, but a lot of the game is just running around finding shrines to unlock power-ups, finding these little side quests, coming upon enemy camps and figuring out how to deal with those, and just seeing what's out there. That's what the game is.
Yes. I used to play tons of Zelda games, and then probably after Wind Waker, I started just kind of get burned out on them, where I was like, alright, I kind of get it. Twilight Princess, I think I was just yeah, I've done this stuff before. So I will give them massive credit for taking pivoting in a way, because they could have probably just kept making games like Ocarina of Time, essentially, or Link to the Past, following that basic formula till the end of time. People probably would have been satisfied with that, but Breath of the Wild really flipped it on its ear, and it's not only an open world game, but a unique type of open world game where people were what are you gonna climb towers and unlock the map icons like Ubisoft? And while yes, you do climb towers in the game, you do it so you can get a good vantage point and you physically mark on your map where you want to explore. Like, you'll climb a big tower and see, oh, I can see like a glowing shrine in the distance, I'll go check that out. Or like, that rock in the mountain looks kind of weird, I might be able to blow that thing up. Or like, hey, there's a dragon flying around here, what the hell is that? So I think in terms of like the exploration stuff, Breath of the Wild just nailed it. The stamina meter is like an interesting approach to that. Like, after playing Zelda, Horizon's climbing seems like laughably bad.
Yeah, Zelda has two things going for it. It has the climbing, where you can basically climb any surface unless it's like completely smooth or it's raining, and you have like a hang glider, so you can jump off of anything and just drift around until you find something you want.
Hang glider feels real good.
And that, like just that ability to move around the world is like better than any other game.
It's funny, so I do have... So to give a little backstory, the reason that Zelda and PUBG are number 2 and 3 on our list is because we both have, like... We both don't love them as much as the other person. They would be number 1 on our lists respectively, but because of this, they actually push each other down. So I have some issues with Zelda. I do really like the exploration. I don't like the story or the side quests of the game. And the story's fine, it's just the same Zelda story we've heard before. And I just really wish they would do something that I consider to be actually interesting. Like, I don't care about Ganon.
The Zelda game with the good story is Majora's Mask.
Yes, admittedly. Which is why I'm kind of hoping that with the next Zelda, they pull a Majora's Mask and use a very similar, like, open world, but actually inject some interesting side quests and stuff into it. The side, I also think the side quests in Breath of the Wild are, I mean, some of them are fine. I guess I can't really think of them.
A lot of them are just like, collect this.
Yeah. Or give me a thing and I'll give you some rupees for it. And I think in a world where The Witcher 3 has come out and made a big impact, that can't really slide anymore. Like, I don't know why people aren't holding its feet to the coals for that stuff more. People do hold Zelda's feet to the coals for some things that I don't think are that big of a deal. Like, the weapon degradation doesn't bother me that much.
It didn't bother me at all, because that's just like how the game is made. Like, you get an item, a weapon, and you can use it for like a minute, and then you pull out the next weapon.
Right.
That's just what the game is.
They break after very few uses. I will say, I think they could have done the same thing with like a Diablo-style loot, and I think I would prefer that, because it's kind of frustrating when your weapon breaks, but also it sort of can discourage combat. Like, I didn't really want to mess around with like some little jobber orcs or whatever, because moblins, whatever, because I was like, well, I've got this good guardian, gear. I'm not going to go and like waste it on these little pieces of shit.
Yeah, but like, I feel like most open world games, you kind of just ignore minor enemies when you can.
I mean, if the combat's fun, I'll kill him. I'll kill him.
Alright.
And also, like, I went into Ganon's area with, like, not very many arrows, and it was the worst time. But that's all kind of besides the point. It is a very, though I have my issues with or the lack of a compelling story or side quests, when you look at what they did with the exploration in the open world, Zelda is truly better than it has any right to be.
Moving on.
Let's talk about our number 1 game of the year. This is for all the beans. Nier Automata. Yes. So
it's our number 1 because we both liked it more than the other person's number 1.
Right. It's probably both our number 2s, right? Is it your number 2?
I think it's like number 4.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your number 2?
Prey.
Wow, really? Okay.
It's good.
Man, you love that shit.
Nier's awesome though.
Yes, Nier is quite good. It's also hard to explain. I popped it in and I was like, what is this weird Japanese sex pervert robot game? I didn't play Nier. I haven't played Drakengard. I don't think you have either.
Nope.
It doesn't really, you don't need to. it makes references to both those things, but very abstractly, and you understand what's going on. Nier is a game set in the far-flung future where humanity has almost all gone extinct, and they are living on the moon to escape the Earth, which has been taken over by robots made by an invading alien race. So if that premise doesn't scare you away, let me tell you some more about it. The people who are doing humanity's fighting for humanity are these androids. Specifically, you are part of the Yorha unit of androids, which are like an elite fighting force. You play as 2B and her sidekick 9S, who are, basically just fighting robots. I mean, you're making contact with this one resistance group in this one city, and you're like figuring out what's going on there, basically doing whatever the Yorha command wants you to do. And so you drop into this town, and you're basically sent to do like there's no like overarching objective, I guess I'd say, at this onset, other than like it's an ongoing war. So they're like, okay, we need you to go here and find this thing. These people went missing here, go do this. And as you do it, you unravel the larger story. You understand the context of this war with the robots and what they're all about.
There's more than meets the eye at first with the robots.
Yeah, I'd say the game starts out much more simply than... over time it just gets more and more complex, and there's more and more things going on, both in terms of the story of the game and the themes of the game, if that makes sense. This is not unique to Nier. It's actually been true of all the Drakengard games and the first Nier, but there are 26 endings to Nier, right?
Yeah, one for each
letter of the alphabet, but there's really 5 main ones, and what that means is that you're intended to play the game multiple times. So you go through it, you see the ending, and there's literally a message that pops up from Square PR that says, hey, play the game again. You're supposed to. So you load it up again, and it's the first thing that you see is like a new cutscene that happens, and it's... other than that, you're taking control of like a different character, but essentially it's the same game, just with like little twists on it. So
it starts to unpeel the layers.
Sure, you get a little bit more insight into what's going on, and then you finish that second playthrough, Route B, and it gives you like a teaser for what's happening next, and everything's completely different, and it looks like a totally new game. So like you have to stick with it with Nier, but I think it's like by the time you get to the 5th ending, like the true ending, it does some stuff that it's one of those moments that like you and I talk about where it tells a story that only a video game can tell.
Definitely.
It uses the medium in a way that is unique and special, and this is one of those kind of all-time great moments. Obviously, the themes of the game, it deals a lot with AI and kind of machine consciousness. Though I think Austin Walker described it this way, which was like, in this game, the machines all try to act like humans, basically. They're starting to all act like humans. And the androids also all act like humans. And it kind of starts to make you wonder, like, what does it mean to act like a human? Like, are actual humans just doing that? Like, are we behaving in a way that is influenced by culture and expectations? And all of the side quests kind of prop up those themes, like in a Witcher-esque way. Like all of the side quests add to the story in an interesting way.
I think a lot of the side quests weren't that like fun to finish, but like the story payoff was often like totally worth seeing that through.
Yeah.
Like they like there's like quests that like if you don't play them, then like certain like main story twists later on make no sense.
Yes, like specifically, do you remember the one where like it's a woman trying to find her friend's killer?
Yeah, that one was very important.
Yeah, I did that, and like because I did that side quest, when there's sort of a twist later in the game, like when that happened, I was like, oh, before they like explained it, like I knew because I played that side quest. The game is also weirdly funny, like.
Yeah, it's got a sense of humor too.
When people talk about humor in games, I'm often like, yeah, it's cute. Like Ratchet & Clank has like moments of, this is a joke, you know what I mean? But Nier is almost more funny in like in a way that I'm surprised even translated out of Japanese. Like there's a character called Jackass. Did they ever explain why?
I can't remember.
I don't think they do. Like her name is just Jackass, and she's like kind of like an idiot. She's not an idiot. She's just kind of like reckless, and you get the impression that she really likes explosives, and like people will be like, "Oh, you got to go meet with Jackass," or just Jackass shows up. They also show like open contempt for their side quest design sometimes in a way that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
Did you do the video game side quest where the robot is building a video game?
Yeah.
When he basically just sends you to get like computer parts, and he sends you like 3 different times, and you go to him the first time you give him stuff, and then like he says like, okay, cool, now I need 2 hard drives and whatever, chip. Go bring me more useless crap. It's man, I feel like you could talk a lot about Nier.
The music is really incredible.
Best music of the year.
The unique game.
It's very unique. It's very cool. It does great things. I think it's hard to recommend because it is so unique and it's so weird, and there are flaws to it, and you have to stick with it. And I ultimately, though, I think it's worth it. I think it's the best story of the year. And I might go back and play it again someday. I'm not sure.
I might do that too.
Yeah. So check it out. Nier Automata, the best game of 2017. Let's talk about... Oh, wait. I have one more thing to say about Nier.
What?
Was it better than it had any right to be, though?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Let's talk about honorable mentions. Do you have any?
I have a couple.
Give me some.
So I have Uncharted The Lost Legacy.
Yes.
Which is a standalone expansion to the last game in the series, and has a cool female protagonist.
Cool. Yes, I played it too. Looked very good.
Dishonored, Death of the Outsider.
I did not play that.
Which is a standalone expansion to the last game in the series, and has a cool female protagonist.
So what is this, the Cool Female Protagonist Awards, Matt?
No, it's just funny because those games had similar descriptions.
Yes.
But they're both really well-made, fun, shorter sequels to like series I both really like.
Yes, I liked Uncharted Lost Legacy. I did not play Dishonored. I will mention Hellblade, which we both played. It's a story about a picked warrior woman traveling into like Norse lands to like resurrect the body of her slain lover. But also it's clear that she has like paranoid schizophrenia. Like you're supposed to play the game with headphones, and so you hear like whispers in the back of your head the whole time, and it's very atmospheric and cool. And the combat's not like perfect, but I liked it. It felt very visceral and cool, and really great performance capture and stuff like that. Real quick, I'll say Hollow Knight had its ups and downs for me, but I put like 30 hours into it, and I had some good moments, and it really captures the feel of like Dark Souls' mood. So if you like that world, I would recommend it. It's a Metroidvania game, very cool. SteamWorld Dig 2 I've not beaten yet, but I've had a lot of fun times with that. It's like a Metroidvania without like backtracking, and it's really inventive and neat and fun to just pick up. I wish I had it on the Switch. And Cuphead is very good. Contra style. It's very good with capital letters. Contra style game. You mostly fight bosses and shoot 'em up style, but the real selling point is the art style, which is done like a 1930s, 40s cartoon, and looks just tremendous. A lot of work was put into that, and it's very fun and cool and difficult. So that's my honorables. So
I have a couple.
Oh, tell me more.
So Tacoma and What Remains of Edith Finch are both from like the walking simulator genre that some people don't like very much, but I thought they were both well-made games with cool stories and like cool takes on that genre. Where like one is like, so Edith Finch is like this series of vignettes which all have like their own unique twists, which is cool. And in Tacoma, like you are seeing the story by like, you have like this augmented reality thing where you can cycle forward and backward through like the events that happened before and like follow different characters to see like where they started and where they
It's
ended
like you're
up.
living in a security camera, kind of.
Yeah. So those are both cool games.
Yes, they are cool. Alright, that's 2017. And I think to sum up, the one thing we can agree on is that 2017 was better than it had any right to be.
I hate you.